Ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, here we're Captain speaking from the cockpit. And, I wanted to let you know that on our new featured Delta channel, we've got the Outer Belt podcast featuring your host Patrick and his co-host Chili. That's me. Well, it's not me, the pilot. It's me, the guy with the voice. Then you've got Jer Bear and Melissa and Eric. And in the cheap seats, we've got Don tonight. He's made a return. So, live from the Outer Belt, it's the Outer Belt Podcast.
I thought we were going to drop the podcast.
Yeah, but you keep saying it.
On Wednesday? Oh, no.
Last week it was
A different night.
What is happening here? Like, we don't hear the music is going. We're just going to keep talking.
Just keep talking.
It's fine.
Yeah, our audience can just hear the behind the scenes.
Right.
Just a little housekeeping we got to knock out. We haven't done housekeeping in forever. I mean, it's been like, Eric, when was the last time we had housekeeping?
A few hours.
A few hours ago, but still, it is nice. They vacuumed the rug. We got all the, grime off it and stuff. Oh, man. Welcome to the Outer Belt show thing.
The Outer Belt.
Welcome to the Outer Belt.
Ta-da!
I'm out of it. You're up.
You're up!
And back to me.
That's
Yeah.
next to Asia, right?
Welcome to the Outer Belt. This is usually what we talk about weather.
Weather.
Weather's been great.
Gotta
Weather's been
jump
great
right into
this
weather.
week.
The weather's been so nice. We're like, we don't need to
Yeah.
talk about it next.
I've worn shorts for the last 2 weeks straight. I'm so happy.
Yeah, you know what? I don't like. I was gonna wear shorts, but Jerry said my legs are too white and they will actually reflect the light back into the camera,
Yeah,
and then
I get that.
nobody will see us.
Well, you need to sit out in the sun a little bit this weekend.
There's no sun this weekend. Have you seen the weather?
It is. It's rain all 3 days.
Rain all days. Yeah.
My tomato plants are excited. We planted tomato plants last weekend.
Well, you can just turn these on and without the cameras and get yourself a little bit of faux sun, be
These-
a tanning bed.
These are the coldest lights I've ever been under in my life.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean, like,
cold.
typically if you've ever been on stage and you have lights on you, it's hot and like it's super intense. These nothing.
No,
It's great.
I was very impressed by my daughter's makeup artist
Oh,
when she was getting her makeup done for her wedding. I mean, she had lights set up; she could see things properly. She had a chair for my daughter to sit in with a little cup holder in it.
Yeah.
Her setup was just amazing. I was really impressed.
And she brought it all in like a canvas wagon. Like she through the whole hotel. She
had it
dragged
going
that
on.
whole thing through.
What
All
was-
she needed was a camera and a microphone to do her own.
that's what I was gonna tell you. That's what was rude about it was the fact that she was live streaming it.
It was kind of rude.
I'm like, and here's how we start. Look at this. We start with
Right?
nothing
Yeah.
and we build. And it's like, well, that's rude. I don't know if you should say that. Like,
You said you came in a wagon. It's like, does she have appointments down the hallway?
No, she's had
No.
so much. Like again, she's bringing her lighting. She's bringing
oh,
that
you meant
chair.
the makeup lady. I thought you
Oh, no,
meant
no,
his
no.
daughter came in
The
on a
makeup
wagon. I
lady.
thought someone was like,
No, the makeup lady had a whole wagon of stuff she,
Yeah.
brought down and up the elevator all the way to the room.
is it one of those expandable ones? Like it folds down to nothing?
Yes,
And, yeah.
it looked like it.
We've got one of those. We haven't used it in years, but when we moved to the apartment, moved to Columbus originally, got an apartment in downtown Columbus, and had a parking garage, and you had to walk up an elevator and down a hall and yada yada to get to the room. I had never been. I've never lived in an apartment before. That was my first apartment, so it wasn't until I was actually moved in, and then I was like, all right. First time I went and got groceries, I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Mhm.
Like, when you're at your house, you come inside, you walk with a couple bags, you put 'em
Right.
down, you walk back. It was like forever for me to get the groceries in the house. The milk spoiled, the cheese went green. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And so I went to one of the sporting goods stores, I don't know which one, and they had cheap little fold out wagons like that. I think it had their brand on it or whatever. I don't remember that exactly. But I'm like, buying it, and we'll see how it goes. Changed my life.
Wow.
Like, it was so awesome to have that and be able to just load it all up. And it lived in the Jeep. It literally, I kept it in the Jeep. Like,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, it was a lifesaver because, again, especially the elevator in that building was slow. There's only one elevator, so if other people were there. You might have to wait forever to get it.
Oh, with all your groceries, yeah, that
Yeah.
would be a pain in the.
When I
So-
lived in New
Video
York, I
area.
was in the 5th floor walk up, and we had that same thing. We just grab as many bags as you can and walk up the stairs with all the grocery bags
When you lived where?
in New York.
But that was for like a week.
Yeah, but I still lived in New York. There's only one grocery trip.
Did you? It was, did you actually have a like kitchen and all that stuff in your suite
No, we had a hot plate.
that you bought? Or no, they
No,
provided.
they provided
Okay.
a hot plate. You had to do your dishes in the bathroom sink, but
I like that. I've been
know.
there. I've been there. You ever washed a plastic water cup?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Washed plenty of those. You can't push too hard because then
You'll break right through.
right through it. Yeah.
When did you live in New York?
I've never lived in New York in my life.
I'm like, is there something I'm missing?
No, but I thought it was funny
It
was funny.
It was very funny.
until you challenged me on it, and I had to tell
Sorry.
the truth.
That's okay.
I'm over here like they gave you a hot plate, but they didn't give you a bathroom.
They did give you a bathroom.
We had a bathroom.
Okay.
It was right next to the hot
Hot
plate.
plate. The
Sounds
weird thing
funny.
was though they still delivered the ice for the ice
Maker,
no
ice bucket.
ice bucket challenge. What? No, ice box.
Right.
So you still have the cube ice they stuck in
Nice,
there.
yeah.
Do you remember? You're old. Do you remember?
Thanks.
do you remember ice boxes like in the country with your grandfolks or anybody?
Okay, I'm not that old, but I do know of them. I have seen them in movies and stuff.
Okay. So when I was a young man, a child, we had a pop-up camper, and inside of it, the guy we had bought it from, he had actually replaced the refrigerator with an ice box.
Ah.
And the front of it looks just like a refrigerator.
Mhm.
You open it up, the inside's white plastic and everything, shelves just like a regular refrigerator, but in the top section was a place for you to actually install, or not install, but put in a block of ice. And so it was wild because I'm like, I've heard of these, but I had never actually seen one. And this was modern. He bought it brand new and stuck it in there a couple years before we bought it. And sure enough, on the way to camp, we'd go camping or whatever, we'd put all our groceries in there. And then we'd find a store en route that still sold blocked ice, and
Yeah.
you'd buy it just like come in a bag, just like a bagged
Yeah.
ice would, just a block, and just shove it in there, and it would last 4 or 5 days. I mean, it was crazy how long that huge chunk of ice took forever to melt. So we did that for a little while, and then we ripped it out, and put a refrigerator in because that got old.
Yeah.
Even with a trailer you're pulling, where you just got to walk into. I think what it was though is you had to pop it up to actually get the ice in and everything, so it actually became a to-do.
I see.
Probably became hard to find blocks of ice too.
Maybe.
Did they not sell them as much anymore?
I'll pull up ice box.
Oh, that's funny.
It's a little different.
Oh, you have the one from Coca-Cola with the top.
No,
up
it's
at the-
jewelry.
Oh, it's
Brand
From
name
Ti-
ice box.
Tiffany. I've heard good
My
things
mom
about
used
Tiffany's
to
ice
use
boxes.
block ice when we go camping. She felt that it lasted longer in the ice chest. And I remember she would use like the space blankets that you can get in the camping section. So they come in a little packet. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
know.
like the emergency blankets.
Oh, yeah,
Emergency
yes.
blankets.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, emergency blankets. The
Yeah.
silver,
Mhm.
open it up and it's crinkly.
And
She would line her ice chests, and then she'd do a block of ice, and then she'd put all the food for when we go camping. And she'd get a good 7 days in
Yeah.
just an ice chest with that thermal blanket and a block of ice.
Imagine what she'd get nowadays if you had a Yeti or an Arctic or one of
Right.
those, because those
things are
cool.
nice.
Those are ridiculous. I mean, you put 1 cube of ice in there and it keeps everything frozen for 7 days. It's crazy.
Wow.
When I went ice fishing, we used to take a ice box with us, and we would drill our hole for fishing inside of our tent or our shed.
As one does.
And then we would go out a little further and cut ourselves a block of ice to put in the ice box. And then we would use those space blankets that she was just talking about. We put them with the shiny side up to keep heat inside of our shelter while we were fishing.
That makes sense. Now
Yeah.
that's also y'all put that little canopy tent thing around the hole that you cut,
Yes.
and that became the restroom, the latrine,
It
right?
became also the rich
Yes.
latrine. Yeah.
And that's why you got
Yeah.
it away from where you're fishing,
Right,
because
of
you didn't
course,
want to.
the
Yeah.
contaminate where the fish were coming out.
No, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
because they're
No.
coming out with their mouth open.
Exactly.
You know, they get stuff in their mouth.
It's not
You don't wanna
good.
do
It's
that.
not good.
You don't
It's
wanna
not
do that.
good.
Yeah.
How you doing over there, Jerry?
I'm good. I'm just sitting here listening to this. I was listening, you know, you were talking about the icebox and everything. I was like, my family was po. Like, they didn't even have refrigerators and stuff
Wait.
until
Isn't Icebox like not?
that's
It's a
po.
cheaper. It's a
They
cheaper
didn't have
version,
that.
right?
They didn't have it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my grandma and grandpa, they didn't even have running water until like the 70s.
Oh, my grandmother not
Really?
only had her fridge. My grandmother, from what I remember from my grandma's house. All right, listen, this woman, who's still alive, love her to death. She just turned 90. Happy birthday, grandma. She had not only a fridge and freezer, which we had as well. She had a double door, like like the side by side,
Yeah.
and in her freezer section, it had ice and water on the door. And this is 1980 something, like revolutionary. The handle was chrome on the outside and wood grain in the middle.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know if you remember those. Kenmore is only the
Okay.
best.
Yeah.
Not only that, she had two deep freezers out in the garage and an upright freezer.
That's what kept the bodies.
Deep freezers and freezers were a big thing where I grew up. Like that's where all the harvest and you know
Yes.
we were avid hunters and fishers, so that would all go in the freezer. So I remember multiple deep freezes or the stand-up freezers growing up. But
And they had a several acre
yeah,
garden, and that's, I mean, I don't know is that a garden at that point? Several acres. But they would make, grow all of their
Sure.
produce, and they would eat on it all year long. So that's why they had the freezers. It wasn't,
Yeah.
there was never ice cream. There was no frozen pizzas. There was nothing fun was in there.
Right.
It was fried okra. She would actually take the okra, chop it up, bread it, partially fry it, and then bag it.
wow.
And so if you wanted fried okra, all she had to do was go get a bag of partially fried okra, get the cast iron skillet, because that's the other place. Mom didn't cook on cast iron, but Grandma did. Throw the cast iron skillet up there, throw that in there, a little oil, and you'd have tasted like it was fresh out of the garden, fried okra. Just like that, no big deal.
So I was telling Vince today, we're talking about weather, and we were traveling together, and I'm like, everything just seems so green all at once. Like a little bit of 80-degree weather, and everything just went bloop.
Yeah.
But I really like that. I like the fact that things are green and the trees are green. And
So, not a ton of trees where you live. I guess there is not one side.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have a lot.
yeah,
And they're also out there redoing everything around our complex and everything, and they're putting down fresh mulch and all that stuff, and it stinks. Oh, it stinks.
Yeah. But where you're at, you have a lot of trees too in your neighborhood.
we do, yes.
So we've got probably 3 trees on the back of our property that I do not know how they're still alive. If you go look at them right now, they look dead. In a month or two, they will be green and lush and beautiful, and they'll be like that for about 65 days, and then everything will fall off and they'll be dead again. And I'm like, how can a tree live on that little bit of photosynthesis and sun and everything, right? Like I don't understand it. Like, and everything else around my yard is green and lush.
I think those
Everything's
are
good.
cottonwoods in your backyard. You have
And-
to do some research on
And
them.
they just don't need any.
They're usually the last to bloom
Yeah.
in spring, and typically the first to go in fall.
That's just crazy to me. Of course, I grew up with like oak trees in South Louisiana,
Sure.
oak trees and pine trees, and our oaks, white oaks and everything, they don't lose their leaves. Period. Like
Right.
the live oak doesn't lose its leaves. So
They're the
Very-
ones that create the pollen they're the ones that create the little cotton fuzzies that'll be blowing around here soon.
gotcha.
You know, where it looks like it's snowing, but it's not.
Yeah,
So those are called cottonwoods, and that's what you've got on your back 40 there.
gotcha. Not a big fan.
They drink a lot of river water.
Well, they're right by the river.
They
so
are
that
by
makes
the river.
sense.
Yep.
Makes sense.
So, how was your day today, Vince?
Yes, do tell.
Because that's usually where we transition. We talk about weather, and then how was everybody's day?
Fabulous.
I like that.
Yeah, my day was fabulous.
Any special visitors?
We had a team move in this morning.
It's exciting. Well, was it this morning or this afternoon?
This morning.
Okay, because I
Yeah.
followed along the email chain.
I think at the point where they arrived, no one said they're here. We're going. It was
Ah,
we got a 20-minute warning.
We did. And was it
Um,
about 20 minutes?
yeah,
Yeah.
about 20
Yeah.
minutes. It was about 20 minutes. So we did get that, and we were ready for them.
okay.
For those of you that don't know, because none of you know, except if you're the team or their mentors, we had a team that was on their way in this morning, and unfortunately were rear-ended and had to get their rental car replaced. So they were later than their scheduled appointment, but we still took care of them.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely, we
That's, they come,
accommodated.
and then as we were getting ready to leave for the day, their mentors actually were in the area and stopped by the yard to say hello to their team and talk to them,
Oh,
which
that's pretty cool.
our mentors try and do. They try and stop by and meet face to face. It's nice to put a face to the voice that you're talking to. It's not always possible if you're not in town, but they
Yeah.
try to. So they stopped by today.
Yeah.
And then Patrick swooped in and was like, I need a ride.
I did.
I need a ride.
Yeah.
I did.
Give me a ride.
We're
And
taking
I can't say no.
a tree down, and it goes right over the driveway. So I'm like, I'm not leaving my truck out here.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
brought my truck out to the yard and left it parked out there. And
Nice.
so
Funny, the guy who did the bug spraying this afternoon and the mold treatment and everything, he wanted to know where your truck was at.
he did.
He noticed it was gone.
He came up to me and asked me, he's like, you sell it? What happened? And I'm like, I didn't sell it, but I need to start a list because I am thinking about selling that truck. And all these people keep asking me about it. For those of you who don't know, it's a 1992 Ford F-150. It's a square body truck. It's a flare side. It's in really good condition.
It's a pretty truck.
There's not a dollop of rust on it, which is crazy being we live up here in Rust Central. And
Well, when you drive it over the salted roads, rust central, but
oh, I don't.
if you keep it at home, it stays in good condition.
Listen, I have threatened people before who have talked about taking my truck out during winter. I'm like, I will end you. Like, we are not getting salt on this truck.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. Like, it's such a weird, like, who cares about an F-150? Eric, how many times do we get people talking about that truck?
It seems to be an attention catcher
yeah.
everywhere we go.
Everywhere we go, someone's like, oh my
Staring
God,
at
I
us
love your
at
truck. et cetera.
spotlights,
Driving
or
through-
stoplights.
Driving through like downtown areas or whatever, you would think we were in a Lamborghini. People
Yeah.
are just like staring at us like, what on earth? It's crazy, and it's a cheap truck. Like you know what I mean? Like it probably was 10 grand when it came out brand new, if
Wow.
that. You
That's-
know what I mean?
That's my least favorite vehicle of yours to drive
Why?
because it's
Yeah, why?
your
Attention.
baby.
Oh,
I feel like that's the one that if something happened to it, you'd be more heartbroken because it was older, harder to find parts. It's got the original paint job on it. You
Yeah.
know, those kind of things scare me about driving that truck. The other ones, you know, yes, they may be more expensive, but you can go get a part from wherever right now versus having
Yeah.
to hunt for it kind of thing. Or not that I want to cause any damage to any vehicle.
but if the Jeep gets damaged, who cares? That's State Farm's problem.
Right, exactly.
I get that.
Exactly.
I get that. And I mean, like for those year trucks, there's still pretty good supply of parts, but it is starting to tighten up. It's funny, like I'm starting to feel a little bit of that tightening.
Yeah.
I had a 1974, I want to say, Volkswagen Microbus back years ago. We're talking 15 years ago. One of the reasons I got rid of it was parts availability was just a nightmare.
Yeah. Insane.
It needed a lot of work, and I'm
Sure.
like, this is too much. Just finding parts for a beloved vehicle. I mean, like, there's lots
Sure.
of Volkswagen people love those things, but the parts are too hard to find. Anyways,
You had special guests yesterday in the yard. Mr. and Mrs. Goose. I thought that was pretty funny.
oh
the
my,
little
That
video
was
footage that you
hilarious.
shared.
That was hilarious.
Are they nesting nearby in that?
They must
swampy
be
thing
'cause
behind
they're
there?
around a lot. I pulled into the yard yesterday, and there are two geese. One standing kind of with their back to the other, 5-6 feet away, and the other one is at one of the toolboxes on on the truck. It's a bright chrome finish,
mirror finish.
mirror finish. Thank you, and it's pecking at the toolbox, at its reflection in the toolbox. It was just hilarious. Just hilarious. So yeah, I did grab video.
It was
of that.
funny. Yeah.
It was very
We
funny.
have one that's nested on where you pull into the backside of our garage.
Mhm.
It's right on the corner, right by the road, and Don goes out there pretty much every day and checks on her. but she's got a nest there, and she's got
On the side of the road.
right on the side of the road. She's got 3 eggs, and she sits there all day long.
And it's Canadian geese?
Yep.
Wow.
Ain't it? Right? Yeah.
Don't get too close. She'll rip your arm off.
I made sure when I shot that video, I was nice and far away, like
Oh,
not too close at all.
I forgot. Don's from northern Michigan.
He's from southern
He's
Canada.
very southern Canada.
Yeah.
He's very familiar with the
So
Canadians.
he's familiar with the Canada goose.
Canada goose.
Canada goose, Canada dry, ginger ale. They go
Yeah.
well together. Very
Oh,
well
I do
together.
like some Canadian mist. What? No. What?
Canada
Canada
Dry
dry
ginger ale?
ginger ale. What is Canadian mist? Like really bad whiskey?
Yes. Well, it's really bad if it were American whiskey, but for Canadian whiskey, it's actually not so bad.
Well, the geese, they use their bills and they just like
Right,
stir the pot.
Exactly.
We've lost all of our Canadian
Yeah.
viewers. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Go Toronto. I
Don't
know.
play this podcast if you're driving into Canada, please.
Please don't.
Yeah, they may not let you back across the border.
Oh, the redcoat's gonna get you. Well, thank you, Melissa, for asking about my day.
Oh yeah, how was yours?
It was a good, frustrating day.
Oh.
How's that? Does that work?
Yeah.
So as we all know, Patrick is trying. I am. Why did I say that in third person? I don't know.
That's okay.
I'm trying to get my pilot's license, private pilot's license, and this morning, everything looked perfect for me to do my first cross country solo. So what
Ooh.
that means is I've got to fly at least 50 miles away, and conveniently there's an airport that is 51 miles away from where I fly out of. So I've been there once on a cross country flight with my instructor, but now I have to go do it on my own, right? And the weather this morning was perfect. I didn't think it was going to be, but it actually ended up being perfect. It was like, all right, cool. So I got in my office and I had to make out like, okay, so when you go fly somewhere, you build a flight plan or you build a flight plan, and it's got all your points along your flight that you're going to like verify your location at. So you're not just like hoping I'm in the right place. It's like mile markers for
Right. So
the
you're
interstate.
looking at landmarks.
I'm looking at landmarks. I'm looking at like one of the landmarks between here and there is there's a big lake, and right next to it is a speedway, a racetrack,
Okay.
and it's very visible. Like think about a racetrack's huge.
Sure.
So it's a lake and a racetrack. It's going to be the one, right? So like there's several of those. There's a dam along the way that I pass. It's also on that road. So I build all that. Then you have to go in and get wind, and you have to factor in all the wind. You have to factor. It's way in the weeds, but like there's a magnetic variance because what's due north is not really due north. Doesn't matter, but in a plane it does. So you have to account for all that. So you build this chart, and it tells you like at this point, like literally 6 minutes and 42 seconds into my flight, I should be here. And that way, if you're not there, you know you've got a problem. Something's not right. You're a little off. You need to correct.
You pull out your Garmin and figure out where you are.
Exactly. I'm not allowed to use my GPS. And I have to learn this, but in reality, everyone uses GPS.
Sure.
Like no one really uses that unless your GPS fails. So that's why I've got to learn it, right? Because GPS can fail. In your truck, not a big deal. You see a pilot, you pull over, you get a new GPS. 5,000 feet in the air, a little more of an issue, right? So that's why they teach you all this. And that's what I need to go do. I got to go do it the old-fashioned way. So I get all that work done, and it takes an hour and a half to make because you have to do one there and one back. So it takes about an hour and a half to do all that. So I knock all that out, get over to the airport, we get the latest weather briefing, and the winds picked up at the airport I was flying to, and I can no longer
wow.
make it. And that was a bummer, but I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll get it done in the next 2 or 3 days. And then I got hit with the second punch, which is my plane that I've been flying, that I'm scheduled to fly, is down for maintenance. And the backup plane, the one that I did fly today, is booked tomorrow, Thursday, and Monday. Or Thursday, Friday, and Monday.
Oh.
So I'm losing 3 days of flight, plus I didn't get to accomplish the thing I want to do. And I'm really trying to get this wrapped up by June. And so it's like, that hurts. Like losing that much time
Right.
was really, like, I was very frustrated. We still went up and flew. We actually got a lot accomplished and did some stuff that I needed to work on. So it made me feel better that we got at least that stuff done. But it's still very, very frustrating.
Sure.
I've been working on it for a couple of years, almost 2 years now. Like, I'm ready for this to be over. And I can see the finish line, and every time I see it, it feels like there's another blockade or
We get a
another
lot of
thing
wind
I got to
around
jump
here,
through.
though.
There's a lot of wind. There's a lot of wind. And it's funny because there's like, when the flight instructor's with me, I can fly into some crazy wind situations. We've done some stuff that's like, God, please. You know what I mean? Like, and I've actually gotten pretty decent at that stuff. Like, I see now why you have to do it so many times and it takes so many hours, because you really like to experience all this crazy weather stuff. And learn how to do it comfortably. It takes a while. They hold you to a much tighter tolerance when you're doing your solos before you actually get your license. And so, even though it's like it is wind I would feel comfortable flying into, it's against policy, so I can't do it.
Sure.
So it's frustrating. I understand why they do what they're doing, but it was a very frustrating day overall with all that. But got done with the lesson. It was good, and then going down to the yard and hanging out with Vince for a little bit kind of really brightened my day, if you would. And then
Nice.
got back here, saw that some work that was supposed to be done in the house was already done. The guy doing the pest control stuff, I showed him. We had a hornet out here the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, hornets are
Yeah,
no
no,
joke.
thank you.
I don't do that.
This is a
So
very unusual looking hornet.
yes, so we talked with him. Found out this time of the year, queen hornets will leave their nest if they don't have enough food and water and nutrient stuff. And so if you see them flying around your place, they're looking for food.
They're scouting.
They're scouting, but they're never successful. It's like the last thing they do before they die.
Interesting.
When they leave the nest and they go scouting, then they're almost always end up.
It's a suicide mission.
It's a suicide mission almost every time.
Interesting.
So he said you won't see him again. He went
Wow.
out to the woods and is going to die.
I have a question for you though. That we can back up to your flying.
I have one too.
Let's
Put
say
it
you
first.
had weather was good all across the board, and you happen to plane. You're on your way, and weather changes. The wind picks up above where it was supposed to be. Do you have to then turn around and come back, or can you continue with your solo?
I think by the rules, I would have to actually just turn around and come back.
That's horse manure. I understand. I just think it's horse manure.
I would push it if it was a mile over,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it jumped up 10 miles over, even
Gotcha.
though it was straight down the runway.
Sure.
Anyways,
You mentioned a lake with a speed racetrack next
Yes.
to it. I need to know where said speed track is
okay.
for my research.
Well, if you leave the airport and you go at a course of 28 degrees
Okay.
for 6.5 minutes at 148 knots,
Okay.
you'll be there.
There you go.
Which direction though is that?
28 degrees.
Is that like north-ish?
28 degrees.
Yeah.
I think I know where it's at then.
360 is direct due north. So 28 degrees is just like a little to the right, or a little east.
So kind of up this 71.
Yes, exactly. That particular route is
Yep.
mostly up the
Okay,
71.
I know where it's at then. I've
Okay.
already done my due diligence. I know where it's at.
Any good?
I don't know. I'd like to go check it out this summer.
So yes, Eric, that is the bald-faced hornet. It's a neat looking little insect, right? Like, of all the
Have you ever been stung by one?
I have not, but
You
I
don't
got
want to.
stung by a wasp back in 1874,
Yeah,
and I remember it like it was yesterday.
I'm
believe
sure.
it. Yeah.
I was on a. So okay, do you
You ever
remember?
been stung by a bald-faced lie?
I've been guilty of one, but not stung by one. So no, it was 2006, and I assume 2005. Have you remember the playground where they have like it's a seesaw, but it's a four-way seesaw,
Yes.
and so the middle's like just springs,
Yeah.
and then so they had one of those. We were doing I was doing like a how do you describe this? Like a summer camp for kids.
Sure.
So like everything from like, maybe like second, third grade, all the way to fifth grade,
Okay.
were part of this, and so we would take them out for daily field trips or whatever. And for this particular thing, we went somewhere after this, but the first thing we did was we went to a park, and we're all whatever having fun, and the kids want to do this and they're like, "Come on, Patrick, let's do it, Mr. Patrick, let's do it." So I'm like, "Cool." I jump on this thing. The kids are behind me, so there's not like I'm gonna fling one of them off.
Sure.
I jump on this thing, a wasp flies up and boom, right into me. I jumped off that thing like I'd been shot with a gun. I felt like I'd been shot. It hurt so bad. And I was like, holy cow, what's up? Thank God it was just one. I was afraid it'd be a nest and with a swarm, but it was just one. And I just immediate like tears off in the corners,
Yeah.
not like streaming down my face, but like in the side of my eye, just like, holy cow, it hurts so bad. And what I remember from it is that it went away. Literally after a few minutes, I really didn't feel it anymore. And then the next day and the next day, it just kept getting worse and worse.
Did the kids all circle around you and point and laugh?
No, they did a prayer circle.
Oh, okay.
They laid hands.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I guess that didn't work.
It didn't. It did
Or
for the
maybe
day.
short term because the
Short
pain
term.
went away. But
Yeah,
long
they were
term,
like, please let Mr. Patrick be okay for the rest of
Yeah.
our activity with him. So,
So I was with one of my good friends one time, and we had her daughter, and we had went to the park back when I was living in Silva. And it was a beautiful day, and she's out there playing, and I'm playing with her, and we're having a great, lovely day. Well, I had a drink, and at the end of the day, after we were out there for a few hours, I grabbed my drink, and it was in a can,
I can't.
and we get back in the
This
car,
is my nightmare.
and I was hot from playing with her, and I
Right.
take a big swig of it. Yellow Jacket stung me
Ooh.
right. It was in the can. It stung me right on my tongue. My tongue swelled up, and it was
I can't.
bad.
Wow.
I can't.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
We-
can't. I would have gone straight to hospice. I would have skipped over everything else. I'd have been like, just morphine me up. I can't. I can't. Oh, it's one of my big fears. I don't take cans outside. And just two nights ago. Last night. No, it was last night. We were back on the back porch. Sun already gone down. Got the lights on for the back porch, and I didn't know it'd be Eric's new favorite toy. Eric, describe it.
He bought 2 of the electric mosquito net rackets.
Oh.
It's like a
Oh,
tennis
yeah.
racket, but it's got like Achilles
got
heel or whatever. I don't know.
Nice.
3 different grids of battery-powered electric.
Yeah. So what our nights are like is sitting back there on the back porch, drinking a sweet tea, and just hearing from Eric over there, just like getting.
I told Patrick, just sit me on a rocking chair with a moonshine and my racket. And
the
I'm just
mosquito racket.
at me every night of the week.
We're
It's a
sitting.
new thing.
We need one of those for our backyard.
We're sitting
Those
back.
little yellow jackets
Yeah.
that
Oh, they're a lot of
zip
fun.
around
Yeah.
us.
We were sitting out back, and I've got my like your drink cup. I've got an Arctic that has a lid on everything. So that's what I've got back there. It's my go-to. Again, drinking sweet tea, the stuff that you never told me about, and so I'm drinking that, and we're just enjoying our day. And Eric's got, is it wine?
Yes.
Wine in a coffee cup because why not? And he's doing the swatty thing. He'll kill a mosquito or bug or whatever, and then he has to like look at his cup every time to make sure a bug didn't fall into
Oh,
it.
that's funny.
And I'm like, you need to be strictly a lid from now on.
Yeah.
If we're gonna be out here doing this, you got to have a lid.
So I've
For your
got
entertainment.
I've got a off name brand cup that I got from our friends up at Rivers Crossing Campground in New York.
Yes.
I've seen this
And
cup.
I love that cup.
Yeah.
Love the cup. But I bought a Yeti lid for because they're all the same size
Yes.
cup.
Yep.
But has a magnet closure on it. Love the magnet closure. So something like that where you take your sip and you close the lid. That way you know nothing's not even getting into your little.
Yeah.
See,
cup
the first
thing,
few
you
nights
know?
I've been taking a Yeti with me outside,
Yeah.
which has a cover and
Right.
mouthpiece. But just happens that one night I had been drinking before we went outside.
I highly
So-
recommend the Yeti lid with the magnet closing.
I
It's
gotta-
not
Okay.
leak proof,
Yeah.
but it keeps crap from flying in there.
I got to look for that because my Arctic is one of the ones that Yeti sued Arctic about. Do you remember this? It was like maybe a decade ago. Yeti sued Arctic because they were literally just copying their stuff.
Right.
They weren't even attempting to
Sure.
hide it. And so it is whatever fits Yeti fits Arctic like a glove of that
Oh, yeah.
generation. New stuff not so much, but the old stuff does. So I need to find that and stick it on there because by far my favorite purchase has been that Arctic, and it said like, don't wash in the dishwasher, it's sealed, whatever. That's a lies. I've dishwashed that thing since I've owned it. It still will hold ice cold for 3
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievably good. And I like that mine has the, like your handle on Jerry's cup right here. It's got the handles molded into it. Mine doesn't have a handle molded into it. It's got a plastic thing that actually like
Oh,
the
yeah.
cup
it
drops
sits in.
into,
Yeah.
so I can have it either way, and it's great. Such a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
We were driving down the road. My youngest was probably 2 or 3. He's now 25. And we had the windows down. And all of a sudden, from the back seat, the baby was crying and freaking out. And I couldn't figure out what it was. Well, a bee had swooped in the side window and went down his back in his car seat and had stung him.
Oh,
And I was ready to pull over, and
poor little guy.
I couldn't figure it out until we did pull over.
Yeah.
And once we started doing the pull the clothes off, you could see where he had gotten stung. Not once, but multiple times. But I guess that's a risk of driving with the windows down, is swooping in bugs.
Which is why I'm a big fan of air conditioning. I'd like
When
to I'd like to thank you, Mr. Carrier.
Yeah, when I used to work for the NHTSA, we actually put out a bulletin for parents of young children suggesting not driving with the windows down in areas where there might be bees or wasps or hornets, just for that reason. Because they get sucked into the window, because you're driving pretty good clip.
Yeah.
And they can get sucked into the window, and they don't know what's going on. They freak out, and they might sting a kid like that. So, yeah, it was one of those things we did at the NHTSA.
Nice.
And it's funny how, like, as a kid, I was terrified of bees. Were y'all?
Yes.
I remember watching remember My Girl?
No. Yes.
No.
Yes.
I remember it,
Yes.
but I don't ever watch
Okay,
it.
so My Girl, the kid gets stung to death from a thing of bees.
She
So-
does.
Yeah.
He does. So I'm like, spoiler alert if you haven't saw this movie from 1991. And so I am...
Hang on, I'm going to watch it on Netflix right now. Give me a minute.
check Hulu.
Yeah.
So I was always scared of bees and never liked them. And in my house, just so I remember where we lived, we didn't have flowers outside. We had what are those hedges that like they're just box
hedges?
That's the ones. And so like we never really had flowers. We had a big azalea bush out the far corner of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And there were bees around it, so I would never go near it when it was in full bloom. But outside of that, there were no bees around the house, so I was always scared of them. Well, when we moved here, we do have flowers around the house. At first, was a little nervous about them, but now that I've been out there, bees could care less about us.
Yeah, they really could.
I mean, like,
they really could.
Mosquitoes hate us, wasps hate us, hornets hate us. They're all mean. A bee is
Not
the
a bee, it's a lover.
They're just freaking kind, sweet little insects. They make honey, for crying out loud.
No, especially a carpenter bee. All they care
Oh,
about
a
is
carpenter-
finding their female and burrowing holes in
Yeah,
the wood.
which we hate the carpenter bees. That's a different hate. It's a backwards hate. We hate them.
No, but just honeybees, they don't want to bother you.
No, Eric and I have talked about.
And actually, they're great for the pollination.
They're great for the
creating
environment.
honey.
yeah.
We need them. Eric and I have
Yeah.
talked about even putting some bee boxes down at the back of the property. And
Oh,
I've
I
always
love that.
I've always been nervous. I'm like, oh, bees. Again, I'm scared of bees. Don't want. Now I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Why not? I mean, like,
That's something I've always wanted to do, was do beekeeping stuff. Like, no joke, seriously.
Yeah.
I'd love to do something like that.
He likes honey.
You should talk
Actually-
to Don's nephew. Him and his wife, they do that. They have a whole bee farm,
Really?
and they bottle their own honey and sell it.
we found
Now, that's a process. I've watched videos on YouTube on that. That's a process, but I'd love to do something like that.
We've even found like there's local honey companies around here that if you just give them the space to
Oh,
put
yeah.
the thing,
They'll take care
they'll
of it.
take care of it.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about going to do the beekeeping thing.
Yep.
We just say, hey, over here, you can keep your
Sure.
couple boxes of bees, and they'll come by however often they need to and do their own thing.
And we can
It's,
put them far enough away on our property that they wouldn't really mess with anything, and
Yeah.
the beekeepers wouldn't have a problem
Yeah.
getting to them.
Well,
take
you
care
have
of them.
to move them during the winter, spring, fall floods.
See, that's the great thing about the people who come out. They would
They
know
take
when
care
to
of that.
take them
Oh.
off.
Yeah.
Well, they'd want to
Take care of them.
winterize them anyway, probably. So
How do you
I don't know.
winterize bees?
I don't know how that works.
you put a solution in, because they're not going to find things to pollinate from. So you put a
That's true.
solution in the hive, or near the hive
Like
for
some
them
sugar-
to feed off of.
like-
but you
like
wouldn't want them to
hummingbird water,
freeze. Yeah,
basically.
kind of, but different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I also heard you could. I also heard you could take a. I also heard you could take a NASA blanket
You could
and put it around the
cover
bee
with them.
box,
Yeah.
and then as the white hot sun beats down on the
Yeah.
aluminum coating of the NASA blanket,
Right. It
it
keeps
heats.
it warm.
I can't
Yeah.
wait to see all our fact checkers
Strangely enough,
leave their
I,
comments below.
I know this sounds very, very weird coming from me who grew up in the city, but I've done a lot of research on beekeeping.
That
Because I'm
That doesn't surprise
super,
me.
as someone who knows
super
you very
curious
well,
about that.
it's not
Super
surprising.
curious. So
I've watched.
One thing I'm surprised about once we moved up to Columbus, Ohio, we see a lot of acreage, not whole acres, but plots of land that are strictly dedicated to bee pollination fields.
Mhm.
Like, don't you dare cut this grass.
yeah,
It's just
for the
wildfire,
bees, leave it
wildfires.
alone.
wildfires,
That's
yeah.
not a thing
Yeah.
from where we came in South Louisiana.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're too worried about the heat. Just
know,
get rid of everything.
I didn't realize that how important bees were to pollination until driving up and down I-5. Even as a kid, going up and down I-5, and you see the trees and the beehives
Everywhere.
and the orchards everywhere.
Everywhere.
And then looking into it deeper and understanding that was a business that people own. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of beehives, and their business is leasing those hives to those farms and orchards to pollinate their crops.
Yeah.
So it's, you own 50 acres of orange trees or almond trees, and you lease bees from me to pollinate your crops. And just like you said, you can have people come out and take care of the hives on your land. It's different at scale.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're paying me to bring those, and I'm bringing them out on flatbed trailers.
I think, the bees are one of those things that we, kind of took for granted, right?
Oh, I
Like,
agree.
kind of like
yeah.
water. Like, water is
Yeah.
one of those things we take for granted. Like, for years, we just poured tons of pesticides all over the
Mm-hmm.
planet, but even here in America.
Yeah.
And we killed off huge swaths of bee colonies. Even, not that long ago, if you had a bees in your house, like in the wall, you had bees, they just come through, spray it, and kill them all.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore.
No, they don't. They come out and they generally a beekeeper will come out,
Smoke
and
it.
smoke it, and
put 'em
he'll
to
get them
sleep.
into a
Yep.
a smaller hive.
Yeah.
To capture them and then take them to somewhere where they need pollination.
Yep.
Or to where a honey farm, and introduce them to a new hive, and they
Yeah.
have a new colony, and they've got
Bees-
a new hive of bees.
Bees are one of the things that I actually hope like we never have in our walls,
Sure.
because they cut the whole drywall out or the outside paneling or whatever to get to them. So you now have to bring carpenters in. They got to
Right.
redo all that, repaint all that stuff. A rat gets in your wall and dies. It smells for a few days, and then it's over. You just have a dead rat in your wall. You know what I mean? Like, you don't go fish it out. Roaches get in your house, you fumigate. Wasps get in your house, you fumigate. Like, there's ways to handle these things. Bees are like one of the very few things that gets in your wall, and it's like, all right, well,
Yeah.
now we have a situation.
Oh.
But we need to, because again, we took so poor care of them for so long that it's time. When I saw carpenter bees were pollinators, because I thought they weren't. When I saw they were, I'm like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
But I will kill a carpenter bee. I don't mind that. They don't do as much pollinating as a regular bee does.
And you can tell the characteristic differences of them. If you see a bee and it's just going back and forth around the ledge or a piece of wood, or it looks like it's looking for something
It is.
in a short, small area. Yep, that's carpenter bee looking for a hole to burrow.
Yeah, and carpenter bees are lazy. Did you know that a carpenter bee will take a already drilled out hole in a piece of wood instead of making their own? They're super.
Less effort. I don't know if that's lazy or efficient.
Well, it's why the simple $5 bee traps. It's just a piece of wood with 4 holes in a mason jar. It's why they
That's why it
work,
works.
because they're so lazy. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, this looks good. Let me go in
Again,
here, and then
I think
Gone for
you're
life.
using the word lazy. It's actually much more efficient, energy efficient,
all right.
because they're not putting energy towards starting the hole. The hole's already there.
Yeah,
Just go ahead and finish it up.
Make a house.
I think it's funny.
Sorry if somebody's already home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's funny. there's a company that's going to start doing driverless trucks between is it Houston and Dallas? If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, by the end of the year.
On the I-45.
And
correct.
being that you sent the article to us, I thought you'd want to share about it.
I was really excited to read it. The drive between Houston and Dallas is fairly, lengthy drive for an autonomous truck, and I know we've talked about them before. It was stating that the company is Aurora Innovation, and they're gearing up for their commercial launch of driverless trucks later this year. So by the end of the year, they should be running. It's a Pennsylvania headquartered company, and they're going to deploy a fleet of 20 driverless trucks to haul commercial freight on I-45 between Houston and Dallas. It also went on to say that the company hopes to deploy thousands of driverless trucks on the U.S. roadways. So they're going to start with 20, and they want to, do thousands eventually. They've got all of their buildings already pre-set up, the 2 destinations where the trucks are going to and from.
Yeah.
So the terminals, South Dallas and Houston.
I think it's interesting. They've been running 75 loads per week currently, with drivers in the truck, but running autonomously with the driver in there just in case.
Right.
And
Okay.
that now they're going to go fully autonomous in this year.
See, that was my curiosity because I didn't understand. I didn't grab the fact that they were running those loads with drivers in the trucks, so they weren't fully autonomous. They were just
Correct.
partially
Not yet.
autonomous.
Not until
Okay.
the end of the year. Yeah.
Okay, that's where I was confused because I saw the article and then I saw that and I'm like, oh, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yep. It says
But-
that
No,
their
follow.
pilot customers include FedEx, Werner, Hirschbach, and Uber Freight. So that's who apparently this company's trucks are pulling freight for. It mentions something about a driverless trucking lane, but maybe the way I was reading that, it's not a specific lane on the road.
Oh, like a freight lane, so to speak.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
I might have misinterpreted that when I read the article.
I know that I want to say Waymo was testing autonomous trucks along that corridor as well, and I could be wrong on who it was, but there's a couple of different freight lanes in Texas where they've been looking at doing this or doing this currently in testing.
Yeah.
I know that I've seen when we were on the road, I saw autonomous trucks running between Dallas and Houston on I-45. They had drivers in them, so they weren't fully autonomous. And then I think we did an article last season about a company running autonomous trucks between Dallas, Fort Worth, and El Paso on I-20.
I don't know if
was
we-
it DFW or was it San Diego? San Antonio.
No, it was DFW. It was along I-20.
Okay.
Because that's a desolate stretch. I mean, you've got nothing
It's
between
desolate.
there
There's nothing.
except, you've got Midland, Odessa,
Yeah.
but otherwise there's nothing out there. So, and it may have been they were going from a little further west to DFW and not DFW directly
Yeah.
into El Paso with autonomous, again, semi-autonomous. There's still drivers behind the wheel, but I think that we're looking at the future of
Sure.
in some of these freight lanes that no one wants to drive, and that was actually the point made in the previous article, was no one wants to drive I-20. Is that we're going to see a lot more of these fully autonomous vehicles in those lanes. Safety we're looking at, but they've been testing them.
Well, that's the interesting thing too. One of the interesting things about this is that they're actually doing it. There have been, I'm sure y'all have seen in your CDLI for your freight waves or whatever that you Wall Street Journal for crying out loud.
Sure.
There have been so many of these companies go out of business over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's been wild to see like really promising upstarts fold. And so it's like I've been wondering where's this going to go? Where's the industry going to move this forward, right? And I think we're seeing that. Like that's what Aurora Innovation's doing. And I can't. Every time I see that, I wonder like, what's the end game for the company? What's Aurora get out of this?
Sure.
Right.
And I think Aurora, the only way it makes sense to me is to get bought by Navistar or who owns International or PACCAR
Right.
who owns Peterbilt Kenworth
Yeah.
or Daimler who owns Detroit Diesel, Freightliner, Western Star, and Volvo, of course. I think that's the only thing I can think of is like their end game is we want to be bought by these people, or I guess they could do like what Bendix does, and you can they work directly with the manufacturer so that you can get their trucks equipped with this stuff in it already. It's interesting to see it still going. Again, there's been so many of these companies that have gone out of business.
Sure.
It's interesting to see that they're still
It did
pushing them
say,
forward.
in addition to the terminals, Aurora is also running a command center
yes.
staffed by specialists who will monitor the driverless trucks, as well as dispatchers who will oversee the deployment of trucks and trailers.
Yeah.
So it sounded like they kind of had everything, kind of like all their ducks in a row, and they're gonna try 20 fully autonomous, no drivers in them, by the end of the year.
I think what happens here is who's backing Aurora and how deep are their pockets versus the other companies that were doing kind of something similar or trying to do something similar. If Aurora is in the picture they show in the article is a Peterbilt tractor.
Yeah.
If they're building the equipment to put onto a tractor, they may be able to do like a Bendix and just sell that equipment to Freightliner, International, Volvo, and here's the system that works with your system. We've tested it.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware, commercial vehicles in their fuse box, they've got lots of spare fuses or lots of space for fuses that are spare slots that you can connect to internally, obviously,
Yeah.
to power different things, different accessories on the truck. So a big thing we have on our trucks is like some of our tractors, we have auxiliary trailer power above and beyond the pigtail that you connect for lighting. Auxiliary trailer power, if you have something that's powered on your trailer that you need to run, kind of thing. So you can use those, the wiring that pre-exists already, to tie into with these systems and be able to run the autonomous equipment that's needed on these trucks. So if your pockets are deep enough and you can last through the testing, building the equipment, testing the equipment, hiring the drivers that sit and monitor the equipment, as well as the engineers that are designing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it takes. And if you can then get customers like FedEx and Werner and Hirschbach and there's another one, and Uber Freight, that are using your equipment, and if it works, they're not using your equipment, but you're hauling their freight. If it works, well, that grows to other companies as well along some of these corridors that can handle the autonomous freight. And then, like you said, is there a buyout out there? Does a Werner buy them? Does a Swift Knight buy them?
Yeah, well, again, so if you're not familiar with the way Bendix works, back in the day, if you bought a truck that had lane departure warning and adaptive cruise control, nobody made that. Your only option was Bendix and Meritor. Those were the two companies that had those systems. But what Peterbilt, Freightliner, all of them did was they offered you the ability to add that to your truck from the factory. So it wasn't an aftermarket part. It was actually from the factory.
Sure.
And they would put all that stuff in there, and then it would work nicely. Now, since then, we're talking 15 years of innovation. Volvo was probably the first big one that came out with their own, and then Freightliner came out with their own, and PACCAR, Kenworth, and Peterbilt, they got smart and said, "Hey, Bendix, you've lost two of your big customers. Mm-hmm. Why don't you work with us to integrate that in better?" And so they've just made the Bendix product better, and they've branded it as their own. Same with International. You could buy that stuff from the factory, and they'll put it on your truck for you, and it'd be ready to go by then. So I could see, someone like this doing that same thing, but I can also see an OEM. I could see, Daimler maybe not being all the way there or whatever, going in like, you know what, we're going to buy your R&D.
Oh, sure. But I mean, I even if that doesn't happen, once this is available, you're going to have large OEMs buying the equipment and reverse engineering it to see what they can do to improve it, or they can make it themselves.
And figuring out how to integrate it into their system.
Exactly. So I mean, it becomes a thing of what's the cost benefit of having it ourselves, or working with this company, or buying this company's IP and making their own from it, and then selling it to other OEMs. So the sky's the limit here, I think, if they can last financially and the safety record is okay.
That's my question. Who's responsible for safety?
Aurora will be.
I think Aurora has to be.
Yeah.
So not the carrier name on the side of the truck.
No.
Well, I think there's
Well-
the possibility of it going both ways. Really, training has to be there. Well, training, it's an autonomous truck. What are you going to train the computer? I was thinking of the autopilot conversation we had last week. But if there's no driver in the truck, I think it boils down to who's writing the programming. If it's from the manufacturer, then maybe there's some liability there. Who knows until it gets tested.
Well, that command center too. Like you've got that command
Right.
center,
Sure.
and there's who's behind the wheel of that, right? Like
Right.
who's controlling that?
Yeah.
Lots of levels, right? But
Yeah.
but again, when you have those big lawsuits,
Everybody's going to be named. in that
everybody gets
suit.
named,
Yeah.
right? And so they need to have really deep insurance pockets stuff. I do think it's important to note the companies that have failed so far, and when I say failed, I don't mean like their product didn't work. I mean like they're out of business. The several that have come and gone over the last few years have almost all come and gone from poor management. Not from a bad product, not from undercapitalized, but from poor management. And one of the things I looked at, like everybody else, I like Shark Tank to a degree. I get kind of tired of some of the fake drama they put into it. But like overall, if you really pay attention, you can pull some gems out of it. And one of the things I thought about was, I think it was Mark Cuban and Mr. Wonderful were talking about this. They don't like even if your idea is $1 billion idea, we're not going to give you $1 billion. We're going to give you very little to make it happen. Because when a company's hungry, it runs lean and it tends to find inexpensive ways to fix challenges. And when you give a company a ton of cash, they have an amazing ability to blow through it, undisciplined. I think a lot of these companies had great ideas, good products that needed enhanced, but good products. And capital investors and all those people poured money into them, and they didn't know how to manage that. They didn't know what do you do when you're a company that's been working on, $1 million, $2 million a year, and all of a sudden you have $100 million.
Right.
And what they found out was that $100 million can go like that. It goes very, very fast. So a lot of the companies that are out weren't bad companies. They weren't bad products. They were just very mismanaged. Aurora, I think if they can get over that hurdle,
Sure.
I think they'll be good. And I think some of the companies that didn't get picked up by VCs might be the ones that come out ahead in the long run.
So I just found an article on transport topics. It's ttnews.com, dated February 23rd of 2024.
So this year.
Of this year.
So it's 2 months old.
That says Aurora has partnered with truck manufacturers PACCAR and Volvo Trucks North America to integrate and eventually deploy its technology on those companies' Class 8 truck models. They're also working with automotive supplier Continental to eventually mass produce the hardware components of its autonomous driving system. So they've got those partners, two large partners already that they're working with, which may have helped them along the way. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's one thing, like, I think of Volvo. PACCAR, not so much, but Volvo definitely is all about innovation.
Sure.
And how can we make things
yeah.
safer? How can we make things better? Like,
Yeah.
they are just in that zone of it. Sometimes to a fault. Volvo's pretty famous for having electrical issues because they are trying to focus so much on
Right.
that end of the industry.
Sure.
But they are, that is the way they drive their focus forward. PACCAR, that's interesting. I don't know if PACCAR just like sees the writing on the wall and wants to get in on it or what. It is funny, they're coming out of Dallas. PACCAR builds their Peterbilt in Denton, which is just outside of Dallas.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, Dallas has a huge Peterbilt presence. Rush is there, and they're gigantic dealership for Peterbilt. So
I think it's interesting too. They chose I-45. I-45, yeah, it's not the. It's a direct shot between Dallas and Fort Worth.
It is on that Denton
It's
side.
Yeah.
a relatively small interstate.
Dallas, Houston.
Dallas and Houston. I'm sorry. Yes, but it's also considered one of the most dangerous roads in the country.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see how, and they've been doing it. So I'm curious to see what their safety record is. It's one thing we don't see a lot of is the safety record of these autonomous trucks. We hear about all the time with Teslas and autopilot, but we don't hear much about these autonomous trucks. Worth following, definitely.
I wonder too. So as a manufacturer, or someone who hauls cargo or whatever when it comes to big semi-commercial trucks, you have to have DOT numbers, and the liability falls back on the motor carrier or the DOT number. I wonder if some of these companies are keeping their like having a different company operate the truck than themselves,
Sure.
so that if something happens, and it may be a company they own, but still a separate
Right.
company.
Sure.
So if something happens, they have to shut down that company that's operating that truck. They can start a new company to operate a new truck.
Makes sense.
Now, I don't think that's necessarily happening, because I promise you, the first time one of these autonomous trucks gets in a wreck or kills someone, it's going to be everywhere.
Oh, I agree.
So
agree.
I don't think it's happening for that purpose. But I am curious about it. Kind of like Boeing. Boeing makes airplanes.
Right.
Piss poorly, but they still make them. I don't know if you've ever seen, Boeing converted a handful of 747s, and they put these gigantic, ridiculous cargo holds on the back of them, and they look ridiculous, right? Like, and what they do with these gigantic airplanes is they actually haul parts for other Boeing airplanes inside of them, and they fly them around the country.
Okay.
So you look at the plane; it's a Boeing plane. It was rebuilt by Boeing. Boeing owns it. Yada yada. They actually use Atlas Air, to fly it. So Atlas is its own respectable company that does cargo operations. They do private operations for or charter operations for the U.S. government. They're a really big, good company. When you leave Louisville and you're headed down, not Louisville, when you leave Cincinnati and you're heading south, on the right hand side is a big, giant building for Atlas. They've got the guy holding the globe.
Right.
Yes.
That's Atlas, but they operate these planes for Boeing. So even though Boeing owns the plane, they handle the maintenance and everything. Atlas is still the one literally flying it, keeping it in airworthiness and all that stuff. And I think it's because Boeing, if anything ever happens to that plane, Boeing wants to be able to step away and go, that was Atlas. That was not us. And so I wonder if these autonomous guys are doing the exact same thing, so they can go back and say, whoa, that was them, not us. Don't get our insurance, get them.
Right.
I'm curious.
That's
I'm
interesting.
curious. I'm also curious who writes insurance for an autonomous vehicle. Their insurance rates have to be ridiculous.
They have to be.
Just ridiculous.
I mean, I'd imagine they're going to go through the roof, or even more, now that they're going to be truly autonomous versus semi-autonomous.
And maybe that's, a lot, people don't realize a lot of what happens in business is insurance related. It could be the past year of having those drivers in the autonomous truck was building information for the insurance company to be able to insure.
Sure.
I would think they'd have to adapt too.
Everybody has to.
Yeah.
It's a whole new way of doing things.
Yeah.
This is another reason why when people say, are you concerned about autonomous trucking in your business? And I say no. It's because we're looking at a proof of concepts. To go from a proof of concept to a mass-produced, going to change the world situation, it takes a long time.
Right.
And I also think that we're a long way away from autonomous vehicles being on all of our interstates.
Mm-hmm.
These lanes that are specific, Houston to Dallas, Fort Worth out to El Paso, I think that those are the less desirable lanes for people to drive, but there's freight that goes between them. I could see this happening on I-40 between Flagstaff and Barstow, California. I hate driving that road.
I love it. It's one of my favorite roads in America.
Anyway,
so
we'll
pretty.
discuss that later. But, putting a big terminal in Barstow and a terminal outside Flagstaff where you can run freight between those two areas, and it gets picked up in California on I-15 north or south or whatever, or continue west, and Flagstaff, just kind of those stretches.
Well, LTL, for those of you that have been listening to you talk for a while, LTL.
Sure.
If you run team operation in LTL, your days are numbered, right? Like the whole gig with running team at LTL is you pick up a truck or two trailers here, you run to there, grab two trailers, and run it right back.
So
and
that
you
whole
do the
spoken
exact
hub.
same thing over and over and over again. If you're in that model, a business, and you're making great money.
Right.
Keep making it,
Yeah.
but just plan, because at some point these trucks are coming for your job, and there's nothing that's going to stop that. They'll be the very first people to get eliminated will be your LTL over the road drivers. After that, it's going to take a long time to go from this is a dedicated route. We do this every night, the same exact yada yada,
Sure.
everything.
Sure.
To go from that to owner operators running the whole country, doing all kinds, that's going to take forever to get done.
Sure.
But the LTL people, where I can say I can map out I-45 every stitch of the way, and then we can operate these trucks. It's a very different situation. And you would like proof is Google is amazing. Google is a wonderful tool when you're in your car for knowing road closures and all this stuff. If you look at their street views and everything, sometimes they're super accurate.
Right.
Sometimes they're not. Like the America is just too big for them to be accurate within a week of everything.
Right.
These trucks are going to require that. And so that's why I say if you're on a dedicated, here and back, here and back, here and back, that's the ones that are going to cut the first. Now, that may be 20 years from now. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying.
Sure.
You may have a wonderful career in this and then be retired before this is ever an issue. But that's going to be the first ones to get hit. So, take that for what it's worth, which...
How's your week been with your journey you're on?
Do we talk about this?
Well, that is part of the show.
So, welcome to Patrick's health update. And I'm really frustrated. Last week, what was my weigh-in from last week? 276, 5?
You stopped putting in the notes, so I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
I think it was 276.
I think it was 276. This whole week, I've been very disciplined, with the exception of Saturday.
Okay. Yeah.
Saturday, I had a couple friends want to hang out, and they forced me, against my will, to go to one of my favorite restaurants
Yes.
where I had Thanksgiving. So, I mean,
It was a feast.
it was.
So I heard.
So you heard? It was a really good. It's a really good dinner. It was a fun night. I enjoyed it a lot. But outside of that, very disciplined. For all of that, I'm at 274 pounds, and I am frustrated that that is all I've been able to accomplish in a week.
Are you drinking enough water?
I drink so much water.
So much water.
All the water.
All the water.
All the water. Drink tons of it.
He gets in the car, he's got 2 bottles.
It's a lot.
He leaves one behind on accident every time, but he does have 2 bottles.
No one has accused me in a while of not drinking water. I am at 100-ounce minimum a day.
Wow.
And I'm having a hard time imagining that one dinner set me back that much.
I think we had a conversation when you first started this about how you didn't put this weight on overnight.
No, I get that.
So it's
I
going to
get
take
that.
time to get it off.
I get that, but 2 pounds for 1 week, it just sucks.
But that's normal. That's what a nutritionist or someone would tell you. That is a healthy weight loss.
Yep.
Don't let that frustration stop you, though.
I'm not
Because
stopping.
as soon as you stop, it's going right back up.
Well, what did I have for dinner tonight? Turkey meatloaf. So good.
That's good.
Had a
Yeah.
pesto cheese sauce on
Okay.
top.
So,
Great. Green beans I made.
Thank you to who?
Me, I made green beans. And
It was equal opportunity dinner.
yeah, tonight was 50-50. But it was Eric made the turkey meatloaf. But that was my dinner tonight. So I'm still obviously pushing forward, but I don't know. I'm just discouraged.
I understand that. Well, we're here to encourage you to continue your journey. You're doing a great job.
Yes.
Keep it up. And we'll tell those friends to stop forcing you to go out and have a feast with them
Once a month,
once a month.
as per their club membership requirements.
Healthier choices.
Healthy choices.
They did run out of Caesar salad, didn't they?
They did. Today's Octavia of the Week is one of my favorites. I love this one, so I can't wait till I have one. I'm like, this is trash. But this one right here is so good. This is a creamy vanilla milkshake. And I think I've talked about how I like their milkshakes before. But this is the creamy vanilla milkshake.
I like how he looks at you and Eric when he says creamy vanilla.
Much like buttermilk skin, it is creamy vanilla milkshake. And is that rude?
No, I'll be the first to tell you I'm Lily White.
Okay. So this little guy, it says 8 ounces of water, but I personally believe that is way too little. So I do 10 ounces of water and then just stir it up. They say you can like blend it with ice in a blender. I don't know who these people are that have that much time. I have a blend shake thing with a little whisk ball in it, and it's 30 seconds, and then it's gone. But this is outstanding. These are so good, and they say on the back they contain milk products. Like, this is a real milkshake. It is so good. If I got off Optavia, I'd still order these. They're outstanding. They're really, really good. But again, nutritionally similar. I like a milkshake in the morning. It's quick. It's easy. I take my daily pills, and then I take this right behind it, and it's great. Wonderful. Love this. They make some other flavors. They'll be highlighted soon or eventually. But this one right here, creamy vanilla shake mix. Really delicious. Did y'all ever have these years ago?
I didn't care for the vanilla. I made them into pancakes.
I was a big fan of the vanilla.
Love the vanilla. Well, of course. Yeah, makes sense.
Creamy vanilla.
The creamy vanilla. Yeah, I get that. I get that.
I would make mine sometime. I 8 ounces of water, like you said, is not quite enough. So I would add 2 ounces of vodka to it. And
No, you wouldn't.
that way I got my full 10 ounces.
But that was more of a dessert shake, you would say.
I
It was a
think you
dessert
will.
shake,
Dessert
yes.
shake.
It
I've done
wasn't
them with
first thing in the
coffee
morning with my
before.
pills.
No.
It was a dessert shake,
Yeah.
yes.
I've done them with coffee before with ice.
I've seen that. I
Yep.
saw where
the
a lot.
problem is I took like an hour to drink it, and it's not intended for that.
No, this is a slam it and get done with it.
Yeah.
I do know that the colder the water is, the better it is. So I stopped using tap water and started using water out of my fridge that's already chilled. And the one with the ice, I can't do it. I can't deal with the ice. I know they say you can add ice and do it that way. I don't like it.
I think if you're using the shaker bottle and the flip top lid,
Yeah.
that ice kind of gets up in there.
It's
yes. What I would do with mine is I would use cold water, shake them, and let them sit for a minute. It felt like the powder
up a little bit.
kind of hydrated more,
okay.
so it wasn't as kind
Grainy?
of that chalky,
As
you kinda get
granular?
as granular as you sometimes get. But just let it sit for a minute or so and let that powder kind of get absorbed the water, and that's how I used to like mine.
I don't have the patience. I don't find this one to get that way. There was
Okay.
one was dark chocolate, and I'm a huge dark chocolate fan. I don't know if you know that or not.
I didn't
love
know that. Yeah,
dark
that's why you hate me
chocolate.
so much.
Like Hershey's cocoa out of the can, wonderful.
Wow,
Love dark chocolate. So they have one that's dark chocolate, but it's not creamy.
it's chalky.
Chalky. It's like, imagine taking, I don't know, crushed up chalk and mixing it with your Hershey's cocoa
Sure.
powder. It was that. Hated it. Oh, I hated it so
They have a
much.
strawberry one. I really enjoyed the strawberry one.
Oh,
Sorry.
we got other ones to get to.
Sorry. In the
So
form of a pancake, though.
My favorite was the butterscotch.
what?
Yeah, the butterscotch one.
I never saw butterscotch one.
That doesn't exist.
Could I offer a suggestion?
Vodka?
No. Mm-mm.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes whenever you're doing weight loss,
Oh God.
you just don't really focus on exactly what you're putting in your mouth. And what I mean by that is liquids, anything. So maybe try a calorie counter, carb counter, whatever you're doing. Write down in an app or something exactly every single thing that you're taking in, just to see maybe where some hidden calories are coming from.
I did think about that. So this past weekend, Saturday actually, along with dinner, I did. The place that I was forced to go to is a cocktail bar, and I did have several there. Which, not several, I had like 3 or 4.
Couple, yeah.
3 or 4, which was a lot. But I don't like cocktails too much because they have like let me get back. I love cocktails. They're delicious. I don't like drinking them that much because I know they're full of sugar, they're full of carbs. They are not good for you. So I typically don't drink those. Like if I go out, a lot of times you'll see me drink either a bourbon on the rocks or a glass of wine, red wine, dark, not dark, dry red wine has the least amount of sugar, least amount of carbs. And I happen to like it. I know a lot of people can't stand it. I like that really dry, tanniny. I used to tell people like, and still do kind of when I go to like a nice steakhouse for like a birthday dinner or something. I'll tell them, give me sandpaper. Like I want the driest red wine you can possibly have. It is the least amount of carbs and calories and all that stuff, but also it just tastes good. But I do know like that stuff. It's the hidden stuff that you don't see like that.
And
Um,
I'm not suggesting just alcohol. I'm talking about everything. Like,
yeah, but
I
but
just got
that's the main one for me.
I just got my coffee bar up and going in my house,
I love
and
it.
I've fallen in love with caramel macchiatos
Mm,
and
Yeah.
yeah.
peppermint mocha.
Yeah.
It's like my thing right now. I love it. I'm making it every day, 2 and 3 times a day. I started putting it into my carb tracker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using sugar-free syrups and everything else, but yet caramel macchiato, I'm still ingesting 250 calories
Jeez.
per coffee.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm drinking 3 of these a day, even though it's sugar-free syrup.
That's half your
Yeah.
calorie balance. Yeah.
You just don't think about it until you actually look at what you're taking in.
Absolutely.
My other thing was, I was looking at your vegetables the last few times we've had dinner now here. I don't think you're eating
Enough.
enough of what this specific plan requires. So
Agree.
my suggestion would be to get the scale and really weigh it. What they're telling you can have. And then maybe even once you see how much that is, maybe you can convert it to cups. Okay, this weighs so much for that much broccoli. So maybe a cup is easier.
I have a
But I
pretty,
just don't think you're eating enough vegetables.
I have a pretty good idea of how many vegetables I should have. Not to brag. But I know it's not enough.
Yep.
Like literally today, Eric, did I not go back and look for another can of green beans because I'm like, we need more green beans, and we just didn't have any. The meal plan we do, they typically send a pretty healthy portion of vegetables. The last couple we've gotten, some have been and some are not. So a lot of that, the trouble with that is like just not knowing what the turnout with the vegetables is going to be. And then sometimes it's like, well, that's too little. Well, by that point, okay, well, let me go grab a bag of frozen vegetables, microwave it, butter it, or whatever we got to do to it. And then by the time we do that, the food's cold.
Right.
So, like, it is tricky. And I'm hoping with time and education and learning and getting to realize, like, okay, well, if I see they send us 2 zucchinis and a carrot, that's not enough. We need more of X, Y, or Z. But it's definitely been something we've talked about, needing more vegetables than what they're giving us, which is fine by me. I don't want to do carnivore. I really do love vegetables. I'm one of those people who that like that. I think it tastes. I don't want to go vegan or vegetarian, but like I do really really like vegetables. I like a good salad, all that stuff. But the last couple times have been a little lacking, and I wonder too, is that an issue of food prices going up and they're just cutting back? If it's something we consistently see, then it might be something where we say, hey, every meal we need to add a vegetable to it.
Right.
I'm not sure yet, but it's been noticed.
Sure.
It's definitely been noticed. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up. It's been so good hanging out with y'all. I've had so much fun. I love doing these events. These
Feels like an event sometimes.
what are they? This is the Outer Belt
The Outer Belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you like what you heard, if we kept you entertained for a little bit and you want to share it with somebody, please share us on all your social media or pages. You can send us to someone, hey, you should listen to these people or whatever. We would love to be able to entertain more people and give them a little news, give them a little bit of fun craziness that's with our lives. We have a nice assortment of insanity on this panel.
Yes.
And on the show, and we'd like to share that with y'all. If there's anything you want us to talk about, by all means, drop us a comment, drop us an email at
theouterbeltpodcast@gmail.com.
And we will cover it here. We'll talk about it. We have opinions, and we'd love to give them out. Just send us some content ideas, and we will absolutely do that for you. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit the bell to remind you. If you're watching us on YouTube and you're like, I wish we could listen to this as we're driving down the road, we're on all of your podcast apps with the exception of
Google shut they moved
Right.
it to YouTube.
But
Okay.
it says right there below the video, try this as a podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. I'm not very tech savvy. But if you are listening to us on the podcast, you're like, they're on YouTube? Look us up on YouTube. We'd love for you to come see us. We got this ridiculous studio, and we love hanging out with y'all.
Leave some show ideas, comments.
Yeah, leave some comments.
I was
Let us know
checking
what you
back
think.
over last week's video, and I'm like, Luke Share's the only one that commented. People leave your comments. Leave your show ideas. We know you've got plenty of them out there.
We see the views. We know you're watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, hit
We
that
know you're
subscribe button. There's like 85% of y'all that are not subscribed. You're watching us every week, but you're not subscribed.
Yeah, don't get it.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
free.
And if you made it to the end of the video, leave a little unicorn emoji down there in the comments.
Yeah.
Unicorn,
Let
I
us know
like
that you watched
yeah.
the whole video.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
If you kick us back and subscribe or leave us a comment or whatever, it really helps the show. So if you like what you're hearing, we're not saying this strictly because we just want to hear from y'all. It also does help us and it promotes us in the algorithm. So Facebook and YouTube and all those people, they didn't push it out to more of their more people to hear us or whatever. So
Yeah.
if you like what you hear and you want to support us, it's a way you can do it. It doesn't cost you a penny, and it really helps out the channel. Well, first off, Jerry, you've been doing your lives, and they're pretty great. And I saw that this coming week you're going to have two of my favorite friends. That's not right. Two of my favorite
People.
people. It's friends, right? Friends works, doesn't it? Whatever. So you're going to have two of my favorite people on your show, and I'm excited about it. Why don't you tell the audience about it?
Yeah, so next week, so the week after you're watching this, we are going to have the Expedite Chicks
Oh, sweet.
Ooh, how exciting.
on the Expediter Boogie. So
Oh, that'll be
What
fun.
day do you go live usually?
it varies from week
Okay.
to week. I don't have a set day. And in
He
their
likes
case,
to keep you on the toes.
Right.
I will advertise it beforehand. In their case, we're going to do it a little differently.
Yes.
They just because I usually go live in the evening and stuff like that. So we're actually going to do a pre-recorded video.
Yeah.
And I will edit it up, but it will be on YouTube as a premiere live. And the benefit of that is a premiere live actually allows me to talk to you guys and reply to comments in real time and stuff like that as you're watching the recorded video.
Oh,
that's
cool.
very cool. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Oh.
I know they've had a lot of life stuff over the
Yeah.
past few weeks, and so their nights are pretty tough right now. But I did hear about this. I was very excited to hear about it because I really like them. They do a great job promoting the company. They do a great job promoting the industry and the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of two better people to be on your show. Much better than me or those other people you had on.
Yeah, Luke Shack. Yeah, they were kind of.
Are they aware of the green room situation?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, tomorrow I'll be letting them know.
Okay.
So I recommend carnations. I don't think they do roses.
Yeah.
And for the cookie, they don't have a peanut allergy, right? Like they
No.
go with,
No, I
I
don't think
think
so.
the white chocolate macadamia nuts
Yeah.
with the DoubleTree chocolate chip cookies
Oh yeah.
and the little Mickey Mouse waffles.
Okay.
I think will be a nice touch.
I used to do floral design for a florist. It's been a while, but
Yeah.
I could certainly put together a nice arrangement for them.
Oh.
I don't think I'm pretty sure they're not roses, ladies,
I
but
think so. Yeah,
we
I
could do
think
some
so.
nice carnations, some lilies, maybe little baby's breath. I'll you tell me what the budget is.
I think you do a
for the
lot of
green room,
baby's
and
breath.
I'll do that.
Unlimited.
Okay, I'll put together a nice presentation for them.
One sunflower.
Yeah. Sometimes it's all it takes is one sunflower to brighten a day.
I tell you, the only thing I have an issue with sunflowers is when you actually see one and you realize they're that big.
They do. There are smaller ones too. Yeah,
Ah.
I'll put some together for you.
Awesome.
Certainly.
So stay tuned to the Expediter Boogie YouTube, Facebook. I will advertise it whenever it's going live.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Great.
I can't wait to watch it. You've been doing some great work on that channel. Appreciate it. So, until next time, drive safe, and make good decisions.
Don't leave money on the table.
And keep those wheels a turning.
Bye.
Good night.